Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very talented and creative person from Gurgaon, India, Mr. Mukul Goyal. Mukul, welcome to the show.
Good morning, Ashutosh. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Mukul is the principal designer and director of Designwise India Private Limited, and he is the creator of the Tattva brand. So, Mukul, before we start talking designing, tell me a little bit about your own journey in brief.
Oh, it's a very long and a beautiful journey filled with a lot of serendipitous events, and all lives, I think are serendipitous. I believe in this word. I believe in this philosophy of serendipity. Well, I started off, if I might say, my education from IIT Kanpur. I did my BTech from there. And you see, is want of all good middle-class Indian households, you find a good school to go to. IIT Kanpur is my calling. And while I was there, I thanks to the non-engineering aspects of education at IIT Kanpur, I developed a very strong fascination for art. But those are very early days of internet, and there was no information available. So I really was very confused as to where I'm headed in life. My friends going to the IAS, my friends were going to the IIMs and going abroad. And here I was telling my parents, I want to be an artist, And of course, how they would have broken out at those days. They still do, but things have changed considerably. But those days was a bit of a challenge. I found, serendipitously again, I found the institution of NID, National Institute of Design, to go to. And I did 3 years of industrial design there. After having worked for a few years, I worked for a couple of years post IIT, and then I decided that, I must give this a try, and this is calling me. And well, then, as they say, the rest is history. I really enjoyed my time at NID. I really grew up as a person, grew up as a designer. When I finished, I really wanted to work in leather. Leather was a material which was really fascinating me. The touch, the feel, it had a great aging process, which I really loved about leather. You don't throw away old shoes till they really tear off,
Absolutely.
So they have that fascinating, But, those are the days of leather boom. And I realized that there was so much business, and I'm talking about early 90s, that nobody wanted design. They had enough business, and I went, high and low in all parts of the country looking for a job in leather. I finished my graduation project at Tata Exports in Devas, near Indore. And I spent 6 fascinating months within a tannery, making objects, products, and all of that. So I realized that, this is not happening right now because they don't want innovation. They don't want a designer. They want a pattern maker. They want a replicator. And I was not, having traveled a distance in what I was trying to do, I was not looking to become a replicator. I was looking to make a change, And so, I worked in the craft sector for a while. I was working out in the villages, working with many craftsmen, as projects came by. And as it so happens, I ended up in a, Indo-Italian jewelry company. It's like a joint venture company. And I was making junk jewelry on the side, old little parts and things like that. And I found this jewelry company which completely changed my outlook from formal design to feeling design. See, jewelry is about feeling.
Correct.
Feeling great. It should feel good on you. And here we were, a formal design process is about, going through a very strong process, and I almost was able to discard it. So having joined this company, as a designer, I ended up being the marketing person. I ended up being the manufacturing person. And I got a whole 360-degree view of the entire process of business, whether it's and how design is all pervasive in every which way. It can make a difference in manufacturing, it can make a difference in marketing, and how you carry your idea through from conception stage to the last stage. It's like a baby, it's the growing up of a baby. And how do you carry it through till the very end?
Correct. Well said. Well said.
So how do first person, a manufacturing person will say, it can't be done. Or the marketing person will say, this is not going to sell. And what is your conviction behind it? So how do you load yourself with that?
Right. Very interesting.
Very, very strong life lessons. And I went on, then I, got tired of jewelry for a while because, there was too much of requirement of mass production of new designs. So it ends up not doing good designs. You need to spend time with your ideas. And I went off to Italy, to Domus Academy, to get another exposure, to, see the world a little bit. So I spent a year there, and then I came back and I worked for a bit to, pay off the educational loans that one has to take to travel. And the day I paid off my last installment of my loan, I said, I am. I'm a free bird. I'm going to start my own thing.
Fantastic. And that's what led you to Designwise India.
So Designwise, was just, there was no set plan. There was nothing that I knew that this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to make. This is what we're going to be 20 years from now. It was a point where I wanted to explore as a designer, as a, creator, to what am I going to do with it, And that's how we started, just making things. And of course, you had to have the hearth running. And so in the initial years, we made products for other people, and so we learned our manufacturing part well. We learned how to create an idea. How does it go into the market? What does it take? What is pricing? What is, shipping? What is exports? What is all of that? So we learned the entire thing, but never at the back of my mind did I lose sight of the fact that I started off to explore my own language, my own idioms, my own way of doing things, Right. And of course, when you're running a studio and a manufacturing setup together, a lot of different things come together, and you start setting down the ethos of what is going to happen.
Very interesting. And, when I was looking at your website and some of the amazing creations you have there, I wanted to ask you, what is your approach to design and what are you doing differently?
Well, there are 2-3 things. We start with an idea. I think we don't sketch, we make. We don't do it on a computer completely and hand it over to somebody. We prototype. You see, the whole thing is inspiration is all around you. Materials are inspiring, techniques are inspiring, people are inspiring. The magic of life around you is inspiring, So there's no dearth of inspirations. The fact is, what can you make out of it? It's the end of the day, it just comes back to you.
Correct.
It's what you are inspired by. And, so what we do is we decide that, okay, this is something that we need to make from a marketing point of view, or I'm really inspired, I want to make this kind of an object. What can I do with it? The challenge always is that, there is enough product out there in the world. There's enough and more, and do you really want to make some more? So what is it that it is what I would want to give that? Right. It's the soul, it's my language, it's my product. And eventually I'm not even there to sell it. It's selling in a shop, maybe 4,000 kilometers, 10,000 kilometers away, maybe in a shop in Bogota, Colombia. And it's lying with lots of other products. So what does it say? Does it talk to a customer?
Wonderful. Okay. And, again, as I was going through your website, you have a very, very vast portfolio of designs and products. And, these vary. So my question to you is, how do you handle so much diversity?
Well, I love it. it really keeps challenging me. But of course, at different points of time, you have approached different things. But like in a mathematical equation, there's always a constant.
Correct.
Everything can't be a variable, So there are too many variables is an unsolvable equation, you see. So my constant always has been my materials and processes to some extent. We do push the boundaries there, but we always operate from a position of strength, and metal manufacturing has all really gotten into me, and, it inspires me. And even after 25 years, I don't see the end. Every day there's a wonder.
Right.
So whether I'm doing a small piece of jewelry or a little knob for a drawer or a very large sculpture or a small piece of furniture, they all it's about what around me do I think I'm inspired by and what I can make. I don't limit myself to what I can make, but and I think each of these variety of scales has inspired other works. If I'm doing a very large piece of sculpture, it ends up inspiring me in a piece of jewelry. So it enriches me. It enriches me considerably, and I think, of course, it's wearing 10 hats at the same time, but that's what is fun, that's the beauty of it.
Correct. And then, Mukul, you have packaged all your creations under one brand, which is Tattva.
No, actually, we have two brands.
Okay.
One is Tattva, which is a range of hardware that we do for the domestic market, and we're hopefully going to take it international. So this has door handles and those kind of pieces. It has curtain hardware. It has bathroom hardware, signages. So that's Tattva for you. Whereas Mukul Goyal, the brand, I'm always told I'm not the person, I'm the brand.
Correct.
So you have to differentiate between the whole thing. But is a range of giftware home objects. That is sold in about 30 countries worldwide under our own label. Small footprints, but sure enough, we have been able to, to give a product which is world class, which can go, somebody says, is it made in India? Really? Do you think you make this in India? It's impossible, and we get those kind of things. Or we get a response at an international show wherein people say, take your name out of it, I'll give you an X amount of order.
Wow.
But, we have really refused a huge amount of business where we don't want to do nameless business. We have stood for ourselves. Why is it so expensive? It's from India. It should be cheap.
Correct.
So the value addition, the passion, the everything that goes into a product.
Fantastic. So my follow-up question obviously will be, now this is not to the engineer, not to the designer, but to the businessman. What goes into building brands like Tattva and Mukul Goyal?
Well, I'm very fortunate to have had the luxury of time.
Right.
Today, you're asked to perform much too fast.
Right.
So I think, where essentially the building of the brand is to have a product which you are offering. I think the essence and the core of our, and I'm talking about a brand like Tattva or Mukul, has been offering the right product, and it's taken some time to experiment. And to, so never be afraid of experimenting, to figuring out what you really want to offer to the world, which is a piece of you, which makes a difference, which people find very interesting. See, at the end of the day, it's very, you show a product to somebody who's a potential buyer and you say, this is a product that I'm making. That proof of the pudding is always when he pulls out the wallet and says, okay, here's the money.
Correct.
Okay, is he able to back up his comments on nice, lovely, and all of that with an order? So we have over the years really learned what we are about. What is it that we are offering? We are offering a good product, a good design, in exceptional quality. Quality has been one of our real strongs. More than design, more than anything else, quality has been our calling. We're selling in countries worldwide in some of the best stores. And we've really felt that, without all the backing of great money or branding or, advertising, where do we make a mark? It's the quality of that offering, So in our studio, in our workshop, we have this thing that, design is subjective. You might like something, I might like something. And so, a good design, bad design is a relative term, but quality is not. And the only vehicle a design has, a good design, if you might like to call it, has great quality.
Correct.
And at great cost to us. I must say, Ashutosh, quality is expensive. Quality is trying. It takes a lot of patience, and, you're very tempted to sell that piece which has got a defect which nobody sees. But you see it and you say, no, this is not going.
Absolutely. Well said.
And building a brand is a long process. It's about building a customer, building somebody that's what makes a brand. See, I didn't start off by making brands. There was no intention to make a brand. I was just making products, and eventually the products kind of made the brand around them.
How fascinating. How fascinating. One more question before I move to some of your bespoke work. You mentioned your products are available across the whole world. Is there any segment or segments that you cater to?
You see, when you put in the kind of effort that you do and you use the best materials that can be done, the kind of quality you're offering it, obviously it adds to a certain cost.
Correct.
So there's a cost to the product and there's an appreciation from a customer. Now, they somewhere have to create the customer base. You see, what I am saying is that anybody who loves beautiful things could be my customer. He doesn't need to belong to any, segment of sort.
Correct.
But then there does become a small parameter of affordability. And what I really love is sometimes we get, somebody who writes in to us and saying, look, I've saved for some time to buy this. Wow. And that really makes me feel so good. I said, I'm sorry, take it for free. What do I say? That is the love we get for our products. And it really, I think that's my greatest fulfillment in what I have done.
How wonderful. Mukul, now let's move to some of the bespoke work that you're doing. Tell me about some of your iconic creations.
You see, there are so many things that we've done, and every one is my baby.
Sure.
It's very difficult to say that this is more iconic than the other. But we've done some very notable projects. And there was a collaboration with Rajiv Sethi, the famous scenographer, and we worked with him on a project for Mumbai Airport. And it's a mobile which is like 25 meters long and 15 meters high. We didn't know where to make it, first of all. These are all daring creations, and there are journeys unto themselves. And, and they hold a very, once Rajiv during the process, and it's about 800 kilos of, mobile in this large form hanging from a single point, which is rotating and moving. And Rajiv asked me, Mukul, do you think this is going to work? I said, I have no clue. But I'll make sure it will. So
wonderful.
So, and we just finished a very, very huge and one of the most very beautiful and fulfilling projects in Bhuj. There's a new museum which has opened up called Smritivan Earthquake Memorial Museum, where we've done a 38 meters by 8 meters by 8 meter long sculpture, which is almost 16 tons of steel. And it was a mammoth experience. It was beautiful, and it's just opened. The Prime Minister opened it last month, and I think it's open to public now. So I'm still waiting for people to experience it. And so for me, making the product is half the journey. The other half of the journey is how people work with it. For me, art is about transferring your feelings to the people. It's not do not touch kind of syndrome or only watch it from far. I should touch, feel, experience. And if some amount of it gets transferred onto the people who are visiting, I think I'll be a very happy person.
Amazing. And I've got time for 2 more questions. So my next question is on technology. How is technology changing the way you do your designing? And, there's so much more knowledge available. And for someone who's an IIT Kanpur grad, you will probably be one of the best people to use all the new technology that's available. How is
Oh,
that
I'm still an
impacting?
artisan. I've become more of an artisan over the years.
Okay, okay.
But you see, technology has, of course, the new computer-based
Yeah.
technologies which come in, whether it's modeling on 3D or it's, 3D printing or materials that are being invented, and processes which are being
Mm,
available. So
mm,
there's so much more. Available for you to be able to use, but it's technology is a double-edged weapon. We
yeah,
all know that, and
absolutely.
while it offers you great possibilities, it also leads to a lot of mediocrity within the whole process,
Correct.
well, it depends for who wants to adapt what. And of course, we
Mm,
have adapted to 3D modeling, we have adapted to 3D printing, and it has changed the world a lot. You see,
mm,
now technology has even changed the selling process. The
mm.
technology, you see, it's a swipe generation.
Correct.
Everybody's swiping. So
Correct.
when I'm making a product, it's challenging me that can I hold the attention of that person for that millisecond
Mm,
for him not to swipe.
mm,
So, the processes have completely changed. And what is it that you're putting out there
mm,
will make a lot of difference. So it's a challenge,
mm,
and it's a lovely challenge. I don't think as it's a good or a bad challenge.
mm,
You see, as long as my ethos remains, and I'm talking about what I continue to do is to explore and make
mm,
products
mm.
that have a feeling. I am my own customer at the end of the day,
Correct.
and it has to speak to me before it speaks to anybody else.
Very well said. Very well said. And my last question to you, Mukul, and this is for the many, many people who will listen to our conversation. Based on your amazing journey and all the work that you have done and which has been loved and respected all over the world, what would you say are three lessons you want our viewers and listeners to take away from your own journey and from our conversation?
Wow. I don't think I'm in a position to teach, but
Hmm.
yes, I think
Or your own learnings?
so, I think belief in oneself
Hmm.
and one's own capability, I think, is extremely important. I
Yeah.
think, while we all have doubts and
Yeah.
we continuously live with doubts on a daily basis, but those doubts are within you. You have to have doubts. Without doubts, things don't work.
Correct.
I think the belief in what you are and what you're offering, I think, is extremely important. I think belief is a very, very critical, possible
Hmm.
thing that I would say is
Right.
been for me in my own life. And I
Hmm.
think when you have to stand up for yourself and rest of the world, belief is what holds you.
Well said. Yep.
Second part, I would say, is there's no shortcut to success.
Hmm.
I think hard work, I work very long hours every day only
Yeah.
because I love my work. I have to be torn away from my work front to come
Hmm.
home. So it's a very tough one, but I think hard work is another thing that, and being patient with your hard work.
Hmm.
There's no shortcuts. I
Hmm.
think that's a
Hmm.
very, very important part of it. And
Correct.
third part, I would say, is never stop learning, never stop pushing boundaries. I
Yeah.
think, the day we stop doing all of that, we just stagnate and our lives become miserable. Especially, in my kind of profession, I think we have to continue to learn, continue to push boundaries, continue
Right.
to grow as individuals. And
Hmm.
that's what you will share with the people who use your objects.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And on that note, Mukul, and your three lessons: believe in yourself, that is, which is very critical. There are no shortcuts, and never stop learning and pushing the boundaries. Thank you so much for speaking to me.
Pleasure, Ashutosh.
Thank you for talking to me about your journey. I mean, I marvel at how you seem to move from 20 tons of steel to a door handle, how easily you seem to be designing so many different things for different people around the world. And what is amazing also is how you have actually taken on to break the paradigm of the mindset that good quality comes from India. Thank you for speaking to me and good luck
From
to you.
within.
Absolutely right. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. Pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.